Okay, hello again, everybody. We're back again today, and yeah, we got another kind of weird late '90s film that we're talking. So, the 13th Floor was that 1999 as well?
I feel
I
like
think
it
it
was
was.
1999. I feel like that
Yeah,
was late 90s.
yeah, and this is another film from 1999, eXistenZ. Kind of crazy that all these movies happen like within a year of each other. A lot of these films we've been talking about, all tackling very similar issues, but in very different ways.
Yes.
But all of them kind of like saying, "Hey, question your reality. Maybe we're in a fake reality. Maybe there's an alternate reality, and maybe there's a way that we can access that reality with technology, or in the sense of this film, some type of a technology that is biological, but really kind of nasty. Not it's not like it's not the sleek, cool new technology like the 13th floor. Oh, hey, we got this cool new tech. You go on this little pod, and then it brings you into this world, and you're in this really cool 1930s swinging Los Angeles. No, this isn't. This isn't that kind of a movie. This is
No.
it's a little different. It's kind of like nasty, and the way you get in to it, it's kind of you have to do a surgery. You have to do a elective surgery that could be a little dangerous.
And it's kind of
Um,
upsetting to watch. It's kind of gross.
yeah, it's upsetting. It's like if someone put a like a rail gun or something in your back. It's crazy.
Yeah, the same thing that they use to make it so you can jack in and port in, as they say in the movie, is could also murder someone. It could
Yeah,
also be
yeah,
used as a weapon. So
yeah. It
that's
is
what we have.
a murder weapon. Yeah.
But it is kind of similar to the Matrix because they have those little
Mm-hmm.
holes in the back of their head
Yeah.
too. But that's still inserting something. Ugh, it's so gross.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because like
it's
in the Matrix, you're just inserting basically like your Ethernet cable.
yeah. But for whatever reason, this movie does something similar, but is able to make it absolutely disgusting.
It's absolutely disgusting. So yeah,
Very gross.
we talked about a couple other Cronenberg films. So I think so we did Videodrome and we did Scanners. So Videodrome and this movie feel kind of similar, I
Hmm.
think. Videodrome was just like dealing with, the television and the airwaves and the VHS and stuff like that. But that also then took over the main character and turned him into this kind of assassin. And we were talking before, even in that movie, he had some type of I don't know, mantra, or uh, I forget what you would call like the thing you would say before you kill somebody,
Yeah.
which we'll find similar in this movie. So it's interesting. He kind of like he's like kind of going to the same ideas,
Yeah, I feel like
basically.
Videodrone and eXistenZ exist in the same universe.
Yeah,
I think they definitely do. I think they definitely exist within the same kind of reality, or is it? I
or
don't
yeah, exactly,
know.
exactly.
Where it makes you question, it continuously makes you question what you're seeing.
Yeah, yeah. You're questioning what's going on, and the people in the universe are also kind of, I guess, there's an ideological battle over these technologies that are happening. Like, what are they going to be used for? Right. I
Nothing
mean, that
good,
was,
probably.
yeah, yeah. That was a big thing in Videodrome, is like there's this ideological battle between these different things. The other thing too is like there's all this weird sexuality. That's kind of a thing I wanted to bring up when we talk. It's kind of funny. This is like literally a year ago or whatever, but I guess I'll bring it up now. One of the things I wanted to bring up was like in that movie, there's this weird sexual thing where like it seems like every female character seems to have some kind of sexual thing with the main character.
Hmm.
Like they're all, even like there's a super old lady, even with her, there's a sexual thing with him. It's super sexual. And with this too, there's some sexual stuff, but it's not sexy.
No, it's not sexy. It's sexual, but it's not
Yes.
it's not hot. It's not
Yeah.
fun. I think I even mentioned when we watched Videodrome, I think on purpose, the sex scenes in that were so gross. Even the audio sounded like it was straight from like a 70s porn. Like it doesn't well, that's the thing, it doesn't sync. And I kept wondering, like, why is this bothering me so much? Yeah, like they go back in, they redo like sound effects and stuff like that, but I think it was on purpose to have that low quality of that really low quality of audio to just make you feel like this feels really out of place in what I'm seeing. And I think again that was on purpose. But
I totally agree with you.
I feel like even into the late 90s as well, I don't think Cronenberg necessarily, I think there is some exploitation going on, but I also think he's just like, you know, women have a power of sexuality as well. And even into the late 90s, that made audiences uncomfortable sometimes. You know, she was either branded super slutty or a femme fatale. There was no other image. It wasn't just, hey, women have a sexual drive as well. But I do think there is definitely some exploitation going on as well.
A little bit.
Genders a little bit, because the male Jude Law's character in eXistenZ is heavily taken advantage of, like in a lot of ways.
He really is. There's a lot of times where it seems like he's like, I don't want to do this.
He is not a willing participant.
No, he's not. And it doesn't matter.
And even when he does come on to her, it's not willing for him because it's his character forcing him to act out in those ways. So he's still not even a willing participant. She's going along with it because she's swallowed the Kool-Aid. She's the one who's designed this. She's written his character essentially. So
yeah, she's into it. But he's the whole time he's like, I don't really feel this. This is weird.
You also have that older woman, younger man dynamic that's going on as well. Because I believe Jennifer Jason Leigh?
Yeah, Jennifer Jason Leigh.
She's 10 years older than Jude Law.
Oh, really?
I believe she's 10 years older than Jude Law. So you really have that younger person dynamic.
That's something that doesn't get talked about much either. Like, I mean, they in this movie, they both, to me, look about the same age. I mean, Jude Law looks kind of young, but like he's still Jude Law.
Yeah, he's barely aged. I think he's a vampire.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of like, he looks older now. But even at this time here, where I don't know how old he was, but he still looks like he's
got a little bit of a baby face.
Yeah. Yeah, he still looks like he's like in his they both look like they're in their like 20s or 30s-ish.
Yeah, and I think that goes along with how she presents herself as well. The female character, Allegra. Mm-hmm. I think she presents herself as being kind of young and hip, and she's a video game designer. Even the way they do her hair, the way she dresses.
Yeah.
It's mature, but there's something still very, not childish, but youthful about
Youthful,
her.
Yeah, and playful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's very kind of like, she's one of the cool kids.
Exactly.
Basically.
Which I also find it interesting that she's the main character of this video game that she designed, and dudes love her. When there's always, I feel like, this discourse between female gamers and male gamers, where in this it's presented as they call her the goddess Allegra, for Christ's sakes, you know, and it's not like she's coming out there in a bikini or something. She looks like fairly professional, but like dudes are eating this shit up for her, which I thought was very like interesting given the discourse that happens a fair amount within the gaming community.
Yeah, totally. And that's interesting too, because like that's another thing that's kind of ahead of its time. Like that's not something, I mean, there were definitely games at the time. I don't feel like it was as big. It was kind of big, but now I feel like it's huge, the gaming sphere, especially with like Twitch and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's like you know, there's a whole industry around gaming. Just watching people play games.
Exactly.
Not even like
literally.
the games themselves. Yeah. So you can get paid to like play games and have people watch you play games. So that's crazy. Yeah, interesting stuff. So yeah, I guess we should kind of get into the plot of this wild ride of a movie. Yeah, so it starts off, and they're doing this product testing for eXistenZ, this video game that Allegra Geller, who's played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, she created. And it's like, okay, you guys are going to be like the first people to play this game. And there's some other people there. So there's like this, Jude Law. His character's like Ted Pickle or something.
I think
like
it's
that.
Pickle.
Pickle?
It looks like pickle, but
Pickle,
it's Pickle.
Yeah, Pickle. So he's there. He's like it almost looks like he's doing security. But
Yeah,
they say that he's like what do they say, like a advertising intern or something? Like he's kind of he's not a gamer, basically. He's not a gamer. The thing I find interesting about this is like they're doing this whole thing is taking place in a church. And I found that really interesting, especially the way that the way that they congregate, the way that they kind of praise her. It's almost like they're kind of, creating this allegory, like, oh, well, she's seen as this kind of like religious figure in the way that she's presenting this game, which is interesting to me because, like any religious figure, like there are people who praise you and there are people who want to kill you.
Oh, absolutely. They even, when she's introduced, they're called the goddess Allegra, and everyone's just like, yay. They're like, it's like people are ready to sell her their babies or some shit. Like,
yeah,
she's very, very much beloved by some.
Yeah, and so then they like choose a bunch of people and we see them go into the game. And yeah, the device, do you want to talk about the device they have to like go into this game?
Sure. It looks like boobs. Straight out of the gate, it definitely looks like boobs. But it also looks very cancerous. It also looks like a tumor. In some ways, it's this very strange growth. It makes noises. It coos. It like kind of quivers, and when you activate it, and it kind of jiggles like boobs, which I don't think was an accident. I think they definitely knew what they were doing. Which also becomes even more disturbing once you learn what the pod is really made out of and what it is. Yeah. It has a very smooth texture, but very it's not pretty, and it has like a weird umbilical cord. It looks exactly like an umbilical cord. That you use to plug into her, which I also think is interesting because she's almost like this maternal kind of like mother of gaming, and they connect to her through umbilical cords. Yeah,
it's like jacking into your mother, and your mother's like a hive mind. Yeah.
Yep.
Very weird. So the thing I find interesting is like, we were talking about before, there's all these other films where it's like, okay, it's technology that's, like hardware type of technology that's getting you into this new world. It's wires, and it's, it's like Ethernet cable, and it's like,
computer chips. And stuff.
Computer chips, and like it's a fleshy, weird, cancerous thing.
Yeah, it's biological. There's no wires or anything connected. You could make the argument that the umbilical cord is the USB cord that connects you to everything. That could be your like analogy, but it's not a device in the way we think of it as a device.
Yeah, it's taking science in a different direction, right? Because it's like, I mean, it's a totally valid thing to say, hey, yeah, it could have been, we could create a biological thing that connects us. That could happen for sure. It doesn't have to be the sleek, sexy, new, sparkling technology type of thing. It could be biological. But also the way that he does it is such a gross way to depict it.
Oh, yeah. It's the polar opposite of everything you've ever seen of someone jacking into a virtual reality. The polar opposite. Like, I'm trying to think of other devices that have been used in movies like this.
I mean, just like The Cell, right? The Cell, exactly. They lay you down on this thing, you float in the air, you wear this fleshy suit, and then you press a button, and then you kind of get immersed in the world. That's a technology, right? Like that feels like it's a hard.
There's people at a control panel. They're pressing buttons. They're monitoring you. You're just kind of, when in eXistenZ, you're just kind of like into a vegetable. You go into a vegetable-like state. That's what it is, and it's this cancerous tumor-looking blob with boobs that is making you go in there. Which again, this movie is very like female organ centric, like incredibly so, and not in a fun way, bro. Not in a fun way.
Yeah, in a nasty way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, like you were saying, it looks like boobs, and the way that you actually activate it is you touch the little boob thing.
You flick it, honey. That's what. And it's like, what the? You're turning it on.
Yeah.
That is
so weird.
It's so weird. I mean, if that's his idea of what he likes, like David Cronenberg, if that's what he's into, that's what he's into. I'm not here to judge.
Yeah.
I'm here to be an observer and then leave.
There is always some psychosexual angle. Like almost all of his stuff. It's like that's the first thing he goes like, okay, technology, human body, sex.
Yep.
Let me filter that into a bunch of different things, but those things must be.
Isn't there like a part of Videodrome where basically they're tampering with babies that are in the womb to like make them these like superhuman type people? Because they go to not a gynecologist, but they go to a pediatrician at one point, and they're like tampering, I'm pretty sure, because she can hear what the baby is thinking in the womb. And I'm pretty sure that's a plot point within not Videodrome, in Scanners. Sorry.
Scanners
of them like tampering with like fetuses and shit. So there's always some kind of feminine element within his movies.
Yeah, being birthed by something.
Yeah, being birthed by something, having your DNA tampered before you're even fully conceptualized as a person. Is something that I find very interesting in his like.
It's like it has to come from a human being. You know, it has to be birthed from a human being, or it comes in or out of a human being's body. You know, like the technology is actually interfacing with our actual, and not in like a cute, nice way.
No, in a very like sick way, like
in a sick way, yeah.
Like imagine you're just a mom going to your pediatrician or your gynecologist, like you're going to be a soon-to-be mother, and then you later on find out that your fetus was totally tampered with. Like that's horrifying. Like there was that doctor who was inseminating women with his own sperm. There was a huge like scandal about that, and like it was a big deal. I think it was in the 80s or something like that. Yeah, it was so like imagine like how the horror of finding that out, like. And you have no idea. You put your trust in your doctor to like make sure you have like obviously these were healthy babies, but they didn't come from you, kind of a thing, or your partner, or you were told they would be coming from. It's just so vile. It's such an invasion.
So and actually, like I think the serial killer that they said had the most documented kills was a doctor.
Yeah, it was like this doctor in England. He was going around. Going around killing the elderly, I believe.
Yeah.
He was like not poisoning them, but he was like injecting them with something, and he was going around just killing them. And
he was basically like using his position to get away with killing people. And
it wasn't like a mercy kill or anything. He was doing it because he wanted to, and because nobody gave a shit about the elderly. It was like,
and he could play it off and be like, oh well, she was old. He was old.
Yeah. She was old. She was suffering from Alzheimer's. She had this. She had that. She had cancer. Whatever. And he was coming to people's homes. Like that's like one of the scariest parts is that we invite that in. What do we know?
Get away with it.
Yeah, and he totally was getting away with it.
Because the society was just like, well, I mean, they're old, so, and I'm sure at some point someone looked into it and they were like, wait, so this person died of what? Right? And then you just start backtracking and you realize, oh shit, this guy killed all these people.
Yeah, I think it got to the point where he started he was killing people that were, old, but were technically healthy. And they shouldn't have been dying. Like it wasn't making sense. And he shot himself in the foot. I mean, thank God he did because he got caught.
Yeah,
but
because he could have kept going and going, which is the scary thing.
Exactly. There was a unsolved series of rapes and murders in Paris. They just figured out who it was, and he killed himself. And he was a police officer.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's another one where, you know, it's always the person hiding in plain sight in institutions where they're supposed to be trusted. Police, doctors, firemen. That's another classic one. The fireman who's an arsonist, so that they're never suspected, but they're freaking burning stuff down, getting everybody killed.
Yep. It's a messed up world for sure. And the things that we invite in that we don't realize are dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't leave my house.
Yeah, it's nice and safe in there. Other than watching these weird films.
Yeah.
So, so they're in this game, in this church, and they're playing the game, and like all these people, like, you know, people are like, "Oh, please pick me to play this game." So they let this dude in, and he's like, he has his own. He's like, "Oh, well, let me," you know, it's like someone. It's like if you check someone at security, they're like, "Oh, I just have my Game Boy or I have my DS or something." He brought his own fleshy cancerous thing. Inside of his cancerous thing is a bony gun, like a gun made out of human bones or something, or animal bones. And then he shoots Allegra with his gun, and then we get into this weird, crazy shootout. He says a terrorist mantra. I forget. Do you remember what the guy said?
Well, here's the interesting thing about her being in a church and seconds earlier being called a goddess. His mantra before he shoots her is "Death to the demoness."
Yeah, the demon. Yeah.
So she's held up. Yeah, she's held up as like this goddess to many, but then there's always another side that, again, like you said earlier, wants to kill you and thinks that you're a monster. Yeah. And he sees her as the demoness, Allegra Geller. And so he shoots a couple people, including her.
Yeah, he shoots a couple people. And then like 2 people come out of nowhere and they just blast his ass.
Yeah, there's this awesome shot. I love this shot. It always stood out to me even when I was a kid. This lady like pulls back her skirt and she's got this big ass gun like on her thigh, and she's just like, "No fucking way." Yeah. And I was just like, "Yeah, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, exactly." And they just like they shoot the shit out of him.
Yeah, they absolutely blast this dude.
He shoots what's his name? Doctor Who. I think he was he 9? I think he was 9. Before David Tennant. He has a small part in it.
The guy who was very short.
He was like the guy introducing her and everything like that. But yeah, it begins like this creepy chase.
Yeah, so Ted takes the gun, and then he's like, "Hey, Allegra, we got to get the hell out of here." And so they go on the run. They get in a car. It's so weird, and like, because like the bullets in this gun are made out of like human teeth. And he like pulls a human tooth out. It's freaking nasty. So then they're on the run. They're on the road, and you know, the the plot of this movie is also kind of interesting because like she's like, "Oh, I gotta go back." She's basically like, "I gotta go back in the Matrix because something, like I left someone in there, and they're gonna get lost if I can't jack back in."
Well, what happened was when she got shot, she was pulled out of the game, and it affected her pod. So her pod is kind of in this weird limbo of like, it's like not sleep mode, and it's not on or off. It's just kind of, it got fried a little bit when she pulled out of it so quickly. So
the thing.
She treats her pod like a person.
Yeah, the pods are not only right. Not only is this not a like hardware technology, it's also these things are very fickle, like living things.
Yes, they're very much alive.
They're very much alive, and so they're very vulnerable to random things happening to them that could destroy them.
Yes, they're very sensitive little creepers.
Another drawback, but it seems like we'll learn, people are so kind of hooked in on it that they just kind of they're bought into it, right? They're bought into like this craziness of this world. So Ted, he like, you know, we learn that he has this phobia of, you know, basically getting these things put into him, you know, because like, I mean, look, I don't blame him because this is weird.
Yeah, and the way they do it is weird. It's not like you put on a little bracelet or lay down on a cool, sleek table or some shit. No, you have to have operation that could paralyze you. Like, no thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really weird.
But Allegra's whole thing that like the risk is worth the reward, kind of a thing.
Allegra's like, she's basically like the Matrix is more real than the real world. Like she believes that philosophically, like from the jump. Yeah, and so then they're on the run. They go somewhere, and then she's like, I need to go into the game with someone who's not gonna harm me. Like, are you the person to do that? And he's like, okay, I
guess.
Yeah, I guess, exactly. Yeah, well, you kind of made the point that there's this kind of very non-consensual thing about this whole relationship with Allegra and Ted, where like it feels like Allegra's pulling Ted into doing these things that are kind of weird. And this is one of them, where like he doesn't want to get this port in the back of his freaking spine and have them shoot this railgun into you. But she kind of convinces him to do it. And yeah, they also have to do it illegally. They go to a gas station and it's like, hey, bro, like, you know, I hear that you like, you know, you shoot things into people's back. It's like, I don't do that. Are you sure?
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And the character is played by Willem Dafoe. So
Willem Dafoe.
I would not trust Willem Dafoe to shoot me in the back with something.
Willem Dafoe, like he's a great actor. He's a cool guy. There's just something about him. There's something about that look where you're just like, this guy, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can really trust him.
He's like a Gary Oldman where he just kind of, it's like they tell him, this is your character, works at a gas station, blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, okay, I am that person. I'm going to completely, you don't even need to put makeup on me. I will be that person. Like, that's why he's such a good actor.
Yeah, he's great.
But he is very sinister.
He is, yeah. And even in this, at the beginning, he comes off as very kind of kind and nice-ish, I guess. And his character's name is Gas. Like, he's a gas attendant, literally named Gas, which feels very... Because this is supposed to be the real world.
Yeah, but it feels very much like a game character.
Like a game, yeah.
Like it does. Gas station attendant.
Like an NPC, character.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much like that. And rewatching it as an adult, I'm like, fuck, it's right there. It's right
exactly. There. Exactly. It's like, dude, this is an NPC world. This is not real at all.
And even when they plug in, they need an entry point character. Gas is that character. He is the entry point character.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and you know, again, this is like the same as like the 13th Floor, right? Like that's the whole premise of all these films, right? It's like, what is reality? It's making you question reality at every level. Like, what is real? What are these things that happen that make you feel like it's not real? Make you feel like something is off. Something is being manipulated. Something's like someone's playing a game with the world. It's just for fun. They're just like, for fun, we're going to do this to you. And, you know, make you feel like, oh yeah, no, that's real. You know, this craziness that's happening to you in the world, that has to be your reality now. But then, you know, there's some people like question like, that doesn't make any sense. This guy's name is Gas, and I'm going to have him shoot a hole in my spine? It doesn't make any sense for me to do that. Is this real? Does this feel real? Yeah, every single one of these movies, it's all dealing with the same philosophical questions, just in different ways.
Absolutely.
So Gas also treats her as a religious figure, right? And he calls her the goddess.
Yeah, he gets down on his knees and praises her. Basically.
He has a picture of her. In his wallet.
He has a picture of her in his wallet. Like, dude, you're creepy.
Yeah, it's creepy. You also see this weird two-headed lizard thing, mutant thing.
Yeah, she sees it, and she is like totally not perplexed by it at all. She's just like, "Oh, okay, you're kind of cute. Look at you."
Yeah, I mean, it was cute.
Yeah, it wasn't the worst thing that happens.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But also, I guess that kind of is another, you know, I mean, you could take it a couple ways. Is it a clue? Is it a clue? But is it also kind of like how messed up? I don't know what year this is supposed to be, but is it like how messed up their world is that, you know, what is there, radiation fallout or something? Like, what's causing the two-headed lizard?
Exactly. She even kind of mentions it later on. She's just like, oh, it was probably some frog or a snake at one point, and then like radiation or toxic chemicals or, you know, an oil spill, some shit like that made it the way it is. And that's how the world we live in now. Like, you get that it's not, you get the sense that it really is, some civilization is on the verge of total fucking collapse. At some point, it's going to happen.
Yeah. They live in a weird place. Well, whatever is going on, it's very strange. So then
you don't see towns and you don't see cities or anything like that. The only time you see people congregating is like workforce, a restaurant, or in a church, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that's it. There's no sense of like what this world is, or like what was that video game store? We're gonna get into that in a bit. Yeah. Yeah, there's not a lot of things that people are doing.
Not really, no.
So then finally she kind of tricks, I don't know, she convinces him.
She coerces him.
She coerces him into getting this thing. So yeah, he does this surgery basically with this massive, like, sounds like one of those, what are they, it's like a jackhammer or whatever.
Kind of.
They pull up the sidewalk with.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a real tool that is used in real life or if they just made it up for the movie. It kind of reminds me of, what is it, like the air gun or whatever he uses in No Country for Old Men. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of something like that.
Yeah, what is that? It's like a something rod. I forget. Rod gun, maybe?
Something, yeah, it's something similar, but it's big and dangerous looking, and you don't want Willem Dafoe to puncture the base of your spine with it.
Yeah. So now Allegra's excited, like, oh yeah, now let's jack in. So she puts the thing into so weird. They take this umbilical cord and they shove it into this hole in your spine. Ugh. And that's how you get into the Matrix in this world. And then it's like, but it doesn't work. It neurosurged. She's like, oh, you panicked. It's like, I didn't panic. And it's
that is something else that I find very interesting, is that she's the one who keeps coercing him into doing all of this weird shit he does not want to do for very good reasons, in my opinion. And then she always blames him when something goes wrong with it.
Yeah, she does.
She always blames him. It's like, Allegra, maybe you're the one who's being a little unethical or, I don't know, irresponsible at the moment. Like, her desperation to jack in is literally putting him and his health at risk. And I find that very interesting.
Yeah, she just really didn't care.
No, not at all. Not about his safety at all.
No, she's just like, you're a means to an end, basically. It's kind of what it felt like.
For sure.
But then Gas betrays them. He's like, oh, there's a bounty on your head, Allegra, and I'm going to get paid. You know, they get into this little confrontation, and Ted kills Gas with the bioport gun. Just freaking, like, shoots him dead. So, like, this thing that you use to shoot, you know, yourself in the back can also easily kill someone.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that was crazy. But then, you know, okay, so they go back on the run. They continue off into the wilderness. They find some house where I guess they're friends of hers, or they're, you know, supposedly. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of double crossing going on in this world. A lot of double crossing. So they find this guy played by Ian Holm, Kiri Vinokur, I don't know. Some guy. He's like a biologist.
Some kind of, you know, biologist, something ambiguous. Yeah, he's like the tech guy.
Yeah, he's a tech guy. He's got this friend, and so they're like looking over her pod, right? And they're basically doing surgery on it.
Yeah, they're basically doing surgery on the pod, and this is where you like really this is where you find out how gross it like really is.
It's so gross.
There's no wires involved. There's almost like a mouth or a rib cage within it, and that's when it's revealed like, oh, these are mutated amphibians, essentially. Yeah. Which is so horrible because that goes into the whole like animal testing thing.
Oh yeah.
And just like, oh yeah, they're mutated amphibians, so like they don't feel anything. Who cares? Like, so let's just cut them open. And like, I think it's because they're mutated that means they're better to make ports with.
Yeah,
I'm assuming
they're probably genetically engineered to be a conduit for human beings.
Yeah, so they're still alive in a way, but it's so messed up. It's so messed up. Like, Ted even has like a line where he's like, "It looks like you're operating on someone's pet." Like, like that's what it looks like, and it's so unsanitary looking. Like they're using gloves, but they're not wearing masks.
Yeah,
and so you get like this just gross, unsanitary feeling about the whole thing. And Allegra's just like totally into it. She's like, "Yeah, fix a bit for me, baby." It's just like, get away from me. She's not a good person.
She's not at all. She's really weird. He's really weird. And then he also asks too, like how do you power it? He's like, you don't understand. Your body is the power source.
Which is even like creepier. It's like, ew. Give it some AA batteries or something. Like, no. Like, ugh.
Yeah. It's so strange. It's so strange because, yeah, just the body horror nature of all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like the fact that he's like, yeah, it has to be tissue, you know. The technology is this tissue, this living organism that you're then inserting into your body, and it's not, it's not like, okay, I'm gonna eat this thing or something, right? These things that we're kind of used to, you have to create a surgical hole in your body that you're then sticking an umbilical cord into. It's like, nah, man, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I don't.
And it's sexual, and it's really sexual, right?
Yeah.
They make all of the insertion into the hole in your spine very sexual.
Oh yeah, and like a very uncomfortable way. Like there's lube at one point. It's nasty. Like it is not like even the sound that it makes is just like, ah, God, it's just so. It's so wrong.
It's so like wrong. WD-40. That's the lube.
Yeah, it's not even like good. It's not even good. It's just, and it comes in like a chapstick form or some shit. Like she just kind of swirls it on at one point. It's just like,
yeah. When they go into the next level, it is a chapstick form. In the base level, she does kind of spray it, but still, I mean, you're gonna spray WD-40 on an open wound in my hell no.
No.
Right?
No thanks. Ew.
Hell no. But yeah, it's really interesting because, we've, like we talked about before, Videodrome, he inserts a VHS into his body. There's that pussy VHS that's like alive, it's pulsating.
Mm-hmm.
It's just some weird stuff. It's just like technology interface with human flesh in a way that makes you really uncomfortable.
Which is so unnatural. Yeah, exactly. It's so unnatural. Because it's not natural. They don't belong. They do not belong.
Yeah, it's taking these clashing things and putting them together in a way that just makes you feel really kind of, it's off-putting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so Ted, as we were saying, so she sprays his hole with the WD-40. And then she jacks this thing into him, the umbilical cord into his back, and then they go into the game. Okay, and then they're in this game store. They're at GameStop.
It's definitely GameStop.
And like not GameStop like as it is now, like GameStop 10 years ago, when it was teeming with nerds and it was like really, another hub of weirdness. So then they kind of, they teach us like the rules of like, how they have to interact with people. So there's these NPC characters, and like they'll say a thing and you have to like give them the right line of dialogue, or else you're not going to get past what they have to say. It's like the scene where the guy, he's just like waiting.
Yep.
Oh, you said the line?
Oh, you said the line. You've activated me.
Yeah. To get to the next step. So he like gives them these smaller bioport things that they have to jack into their body. And so then they're like, okay, let's do it. So they need to do that so they can get new identities. They need to get new identities. Mm-hmm. So putting these things into their port is going to do that. So she puts one into him, and she's like, "Oh, I got sucked into your body." He's like, "What?" But she's into it.
Again, yeah, she's totally into it, and he is not having fun. He is not enjoying himself.
Okay, so then this is really gross. So like,
yeah.
So
wait for it. It gets worse.
It gets worse. But wait, there's Mola. He puts the thing into her body, and then he spontaneously starts licking her port.
It's so gross.
It is.
No, he doesn't just lick it. He doesn't just lick it. He sticks his whole fucking tongue in there. And God bless Jude Law, because if a director asked me to do that, I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to be an actor. And
he does it. Yeah, it's Jude Law. And like, what the hell is it her? Like, was that Jennifer Jason Leigh? Was that a body double? Was it Jennifer Jason Leigh with that thing put into her back?
Just for a second, God bless body doubles, because they're doing the shit the real actor does not want to do. So God bless them too. But so then he gets really freaked out because he's like, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. I would never have done, because that
was the game character.
Yeah, that was the game character. Again, he's not consenting to what this game character wants to do, which is gross. And she's just like, oh, hey, it's my game character too. And it's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. I don't think this is her game character jumping his bones.
Yeah, jumping him. Yeah, it's supposed to heighten the game if we have sex. Like, what?
Is it though?
Is this a scene like, I forget? Yeah, I think this is the one where he's really hesitant.
Yeah, he does. He's like not into. Really, he's fighting. Like, he's fighting the character programming. He does not want to do this.
Yeah, and he's really. This is basically like to get to the cutscene in the game.
Yes.
Since you can go to the next thing.
Basically, he has to complete this level.
Yes.
Which he does not want to do to get to the next level.
Oh, it's you have to have non-consensual sense to get to the cutscene.
Essentially.
But after a while, he's like, "Okay, let's just do it." And they have sex. Boom, cutscene, and then he gets into his new identity, and he's in a slaughterhouse.
That's the thing. It's every cutscene is another gross scene. There's no middle ground. It's always something worse.
Yeah, there is always something worse. So yeah, he's at the slaughterhouse now, and so it's like some of these mutated frogs or whatever, and he's like cutting them up, slicing them up, and then he's working with this NPC guy, and again he realizes, I have to tell him, I have to say the thing, so he'll tell me the thing. So he says the thing that the NPC wants him to say, and he says, "Oh, you need to go to this location, and you need to order the special for lunch, and then you're gonna, get your thing." It's like, okay. So the place is called, like, it's like a toad farm.
Yeah.
These mutated toads, and they're chopping them up, and like, I don't know. It's nasty.
It's really, really gross.
It's really nasty. So yeah, Allegra's there too. But then there's this weird thing where he has to like say this certain thing to her for her to like get into the next stage. So it felt like even she was kind of an NPC. But then because he's like, okay, we have to go to this location to get the special, and she's like, okay, yeah, let's do it. It's just kind of playing with our sense of like what's real, what's not, who's real, who's not, what's going on, what the hell's going on, right?
Exactly, yeah.
This whole world. So then they go there. They try to order the special. He's like, "Oh, we can't give you the special." He's like, "No, I insist. It's her birthday." Okay, yeah, we'll give you the special. Like it's just a special occasion. Everyone else leaves. Like they literally get up and just fucking walk out.
Yep.
And then Ted's like, "Okay, I want out. I've been in this for too long. I want out because I don't know what's real and what's not. I want to feel my real body." And then he like does this very weird flamboyant. Ted pauses the game. So then they get out, and and she's like, "See, everything's fine. It's like, it's all fine. Our bodies are fine." But he's like, "No, this is not fine.
No,
this doesn't feel real anymore. This real world doesn't feel real. This feels just like the game." She's like, "Oh, isn't it so cool? Like the game becomes so real." And we get this weird like Tarantino-esque foot fetish stuff too, where she's like wrapping her foot around the umbilical cord.
Yeah, it's very, again, hypersexualized, and she's almost kind of stoned. Like you get she's acting as if she's like high from it. And even Ted mentions at one point when they're walking to the restaurant where he's just like, "Aren't you worried there's some kind of psychosis attached to this? Like, are you worried that this is not healthy for the brain to be experiencing?" And she's just like, "It's cool, man. Just go along with it."
Yeah, it's all fine. Just go along with it. Don't worry. It's all chill. Like, and she again, basically her philosophy is like, the video game world is more real than the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And in that world, I can do what I want. So like, why? I don't care what's real or what's not. I want to be in the place that's, the cooler place.
Yeah.
So similar like Inception, right? In Inception, there are some people who are just like, I'm going to be in the dream world forever. Maul, his wife, was like that. And like, I just want to be in the dream world forever. And then he's like, makes her question what is real.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's all kind of playing with the same philosophical ideas, basically. So they go back in. They get served some food, and hey, guess what? The two-headed lizard is on the menu.
It's all very slimy. There's so much slime. Yeah, it's so unappetizing. It's so gross.
So then Ted's NPC is like hungry. So his game character. So he starts eating all this stuff. It's like when you go to KFC and you get a platter or something, but it's like hella greasy. Maybe it's not even KFC. What's like the really nasty chicken place?
We only have KFC here in the Northeast, so I'm not sure.
I used to have a Church's Chicken where I lived, but I think it was so nasty that got shut down. Yeah, it is abandoned. So maybe it's like a Church's Chicken. He had like Church's Chicken platter.
It's like if you pulled all the skin off of fried chicken, and then coated it in oil, and then let it sit out for like 48 hours in the sun. That's what it looks like. And it has that filmy, foamy, unappetizing appeal.
It's nasty. But Jude Law is like, he's eating.
Yeah, he even says, again, he even says, I don't want to do this. This is disgusting, but I can't help myself. Again, not consenting fully to what he is doing. And it's so gross.
Yeah, and then he's taking all this stuff apart, and then he creates the gun that the assassin used in the real world to try and kill Allegra.
Yeah, he even pulls his own tooth out and sticks it in.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like a bridge.
Mm.
It's not even,
that's
not even one, two. It's and he's just like, I feel the urge to kill someone. It's like, oh, kill our waiter. Hey, waiter, come over.
Oh.
And they shoot him a bunch of times. Yeah, this at this point the movie just gets really, really weird. So they shoot this guy, they shoot the waiter and kill him. They go into the kitchen, and the guy's like, oh, you passed the test. Let me show you something. Takes him to these breeding pools where they're breeding these mutated frog lizard things that people eat. And then there's some weird, I kind of glossed over it, whatever the plot is supposed to be.
I think it's supposed to be like, yeah, we're using these to make pods, but we're also using them to make biological like weapons that can't be detected because there's going to be an uprising or something. The plot of the game of eXistenZ kind of falls apart. It kind of falls apart a little bit.
It starts to just become really convoluted. But basically, I guess the whole thing you need to know is there's a lot of double crossing. There's a lot of different factions, and there's a lot of double crossing factions, double agents. I think people working for different corporations, right?
Yeah, they mentioned one corporation that's at war with her corporation, and it's just.
But it's so convoluted.
It's extremely convoluted.
And I think on purpose, right? I think
it's supposed to be on purpose. I think they're trying to confuse the audience member as much as like Allegra and Ted are kind of confused. Well, more Ted. She's still just going along with it to win the game.
Yeah, she wants to win the game.
She's clearly far more competitive than he is.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just kind of gets a little confusing, but again, probably on purpose.
Yeah, at some point they end up back on the taupe farm, and then they talk to this guy. Oh no, sorry. So they go back to the game store, and then they talk to some guy because they're trying to talk to the first guy that they talked to, but then he's literally on the shelf.
Yeah, I think he like hung himself with one of the umbilical cords or something. Like it's super weird.
So weird. And then they're like, "Oh, Ted, you killed the wrong guy. You need to kill the guy who you're working for. That guy's a double agent. He's crossing you over."
Yeah, the waiter was their contact.
Yeah, the waiter was a contact. But then they killed him. So then they then go back to the Toad farm. Some weird stuff happens. Allegra finds this pod. She's like, "Oh, we got to jack into it." It's like, no, that looks gross. It's like, just do it anyway.
Pod. They even say it's infected.
It's infected. She does it anyway. And it's like really bad. It's like killing her. And so then Ted has to do something. So he cuts the umbilical cord. But that doesn't really seem to be fixing it. Then this dude shows up with a freaking blowtorch.
Yeah.
Not a blowtorch. It's
something.
Like flamethrower. Flamethrower. And so he burns the pod, but then it starts spewing out like a disease. And plus, they're also
spores. It was like, it's spores.
It's like, what the hell is going on in this movie?
So gross.
Yeah. And they're like, we gotta get out. We gotta get out of this game. So then finally they get out of the game, but then Allegra's mad because her actual pod is messed up.
Yeah, and again, she still blames Ted for whatever reason.
And she's like, "Oh, they infected your bioport, Ted. That's why now they're bringing that infection into our world now." And it's like, I don't know. Yeah, it's getting crazy. But yeah, basically she's saying like that stuff from the game world is bleeding into the real world, the infection. And so now it's like, okay, what's real, what's not? Like reality's bleeding. And then the freaking window explodes. Like literally the window just like blows open and G.I. freaking Joe flies through.
Yep.
And these game characters start coming into their reality. This dude comes in, he like shoots her pod, and he's like, "You gotta leave now, blah blah blah, do this." It's like, what the hell?
He doesn't just shoot her pod. He gets excessively violent with the pod.
Violent.
I think one shot would have done it, but he like empties an entire clip into the pod.
A clip of like an M16 on it.
Yeah. Sorry, my dog just kicked my computer because she's mad.
No, she's mad. Well,
she's napping.
Okay, I get it. Yeah,
but yeah, he gets excessively violent with the pod. It sends Allegra into like this shock. But Ted makes the connection that, hey, if a game character is here, we're probably still playing, so you can let go of the pod. Like it's your real ones.
That's not the real one.
Out there. Exactly. So she kind of goes along with it.
Yeah, and then now we just get into this existential craziness, right? A whole bunch of people start showing up. Ian Holm shows up again. Allegra shoots him, and Allegra's just gone totally like crazy. I guess we think she's crazy.
That's when Ted's just like, if this is not the game, then you just shot a real person. And she's kind of like, oh, okay.
She's like, I don't care, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And then she's like, oh, well, you know, Ted, if you were the one who was sent to assassinate me, so I'm going to kill you now. And then she kills Ted.
Yeah, suddenly he's holding a gun, and it's just this whole thing, like...
Yeah, oh, she kills him with an explosive.
Oh, yeah, she
planted an explosive into him.
Mm-hmm.
And then she, like, pulls the trigger on it and just blows him up.
Which is ironic, because his biggest fear was that this thing would kill him.
And it did.
And it was her idea to get him, that he would get the bioport, and then she kills him with it. Like, she literally uses his biggest fear against him, and it's sick.
Yeah, and then she's like, have I won the game? And then a bunch of other kind of weird stuff happens where things just show up. I think the pews of the church show up or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And then she realizes she has this thing on her head.
She has the purple
Star Trek-y antenna.
The Star Trek-y antenna on her head. And then she comes out of the game. And so Allegra won the game. And then a whole bunch of these people that we saw, they were characters who were playing the game inside of the game. So, like, basically, they went into the game. They went into, like, the game room part of the game, which was, like, recreating the world's...
Sorry, I think the cat just knocked over the doggy gate. It's fine. He's fine.
So like basically the game was like on the base level was like recreating what they were doing, and then they went in another level, which was the game within the game.
Yeah, it was like the opening scene that we see, I feel like, is an introduction, basically. So I wonder if it's maybe has something to do with so the people actually playing the characters don't freak out right away. So they're introduced to something that's very familiar, kind of like the deja vu thing. And then they can start introducing the characters slowly over time, so as there's no like freak out or existential crisis or anything that happens.
Yeah, it's interesting. So and they're in the church, and they're all talking like, oh, you know, they're just talking about the game, like, oh, you know, you did really well, and you know, I was kind of disappointed I died really early, but it's still really fun. Blah blah.
Yeah, the focus group stuff is kind of fun.
Yeah. And then there's all these like kind of, you know, Easter eggy things. Like there was a dog that we saw in the game that's their dog. And then Allegra and Ted, like they were just gamers basically, but they're like lovers outside of the game, so that's why they were like lovers in the game. Anyway, et cetera, et cetera. But then then the actual game designer's like, hey, you know, like he says something where it's like he's kind of worried about the way that the game went because there was this whole subplot about assassinating a game designer.
Yeah, so he's just kind of like, I think there was someone plugged in who really hates games. Like, like the plot. And you get the impression that the plot that goes down in the movie was not what they were anticipating or expecting. So he's kind of on edge and there was a really dark element to this. Yeah. So everything that we see that we were disturbed by, he is clearly disturbed by. He's disturbed by too.
Yeah, or it almost seems like the plot happens in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Like it's influenced by whoever's playing. It's influenced
by who's playing, yeah. And so since they were like kind of the dominant force in this game, they dictated that was going to be the plot, which would kind of be interesting. I think there's a term for stuff kind of like that. Because I know there are games, I forget what but there are games where it'll spontaneously create maps or like dungeons. Yeah, I feel like that happens there was some Elder Scroll game, maybe. I don't know if it was Skyrim. Anyway. So yeah, Ted and Allegra, they didn't freaking pull out a gun and assassinate this dude. What did they say to the guy? Like you're responsible for destroying reality or something like that?
Like you're poisoning the human race and you're destroying reality.
Don't you think you should be punished?
Yeah, basically. And then they just like waste them both.
They just
at
kill
point
them both.
blank range too, so that was like super personal. It was really messed up.
Yeah.
And then they shout something super extreme. They're basically domestic terrorists. I get the impression.
Yeah, they're terrorists. Yeah, but then they try to kill this Chinese guy.
At that point, I think they were just like, we need to kill everybody. I think they were. I think they both just kind of snapped.
Wait, she's like, no, wait, it's just a game.
Yeah, the Chinese guy is just like, wait, are we still playing? And even like the last shot is of Ted and Allegra kind of being like, I don't know,
but I'm gonna kill you anyway. Yeah, and that's it. That's the end of the movie. Yeah, this is a weird one.
Really I feel like movies like this always have some kind of ambiguous ending. Like the 13th Floor for me personally had a fairly ambiguous ending. Yeah. This, like I feel like movies like this just tend to be very open-ended and, well, how do you feel?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think it's all a simulation? I personally think we are not in a simulation, but that's just me. That's just me. But yeah.
So yeah, I guess what was your thematic takeaway from this one? Like, what is he trying to say about our reality? And I guess what's Cronenberg trying to say about the existential question about whether or not our reality is real or fake?
Oh God, I don't know, because like I feel like he's been asking that question since like Videodrome.
Yeah.
I still don't think he has an answer, which is why I think he made another movie very similar to it. But maybe just to keep, just question everything. Just question everything. Sometimes things don't make sense. Sometimes miracles do happen, as crazy as they are, or maybe it's someone reprogramming the simulation. But yeah, I'm not sure, but he's definitely saying something. I definitely think this is a guy who has a fear of reality being fake.
Yeah.
So which is interesting that he became a filmmaker, because then he creates his own realities within his films.
Yeah, he does.
But he shows the gross side of things. He doesn't want to. I don't think this is a filmmaker who wants to lie to you. I think he wants to give it to you straight. Sometimes life is gross. Sometimes things are really upsetting and nasty, and we shouldn't lie to ourselves that everything's so hunky-dory and that reality sucks sometimes.
Especially the stuff with technology, and like the fact that he's always just kind of trying to show the human connection with technology. Like the fact that we've seen people jack into an alternate reality in so many different movies. This is like the only one we've seen where it's like a fleshy organism, right?
Yeah. Biological, upsetting. It's ugly looking. It's not cute. It's not fun. It's not sleek. It's not sexy. It's tampering with something that's already been tampered with for our amusement. We're taking these poor little mutated amphibians and cutting them open and making them something for our entertainment. It's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah, turning them into a conduit for our existential crisis.
And people who take it to the extreme of not wanting to indulge in. That's another thing. I feel like there's an overindulgence element to the film as well, especially with Allegra's character. Like she's extremely overindulgent when it comes to her games. The overindulgence of just this conveyor belt of mutated fish frogs and little squiddy things and stuff like that. The overindulgence of just tearing them apart and making them something that's very grotesque.
Yeah. It's all very, very strange. But I feel like that's, to me, the biggest takeaway is like how he always wants to center it on the human body and some type of like technology has to interface with flesh, in a way that's like kind of visceral and horrific, because like even like in the Matrix, when they put that thing into someone's head, like that's a really long, it's like a foot long freaking, maybe not foot, maybe like 8 inches, 6 inches, but still, I don't want to put a 6 inch thing into my head. That doesn't make me feel
it's violating.
Yeah, it's super violent.
It's violating. And even with like Videodrome, there's also an element of overindulgence and that abnormal fleshiness mixed with like a VHS or a television set or something. It's just very, hey.
Let me just kick it.
Yeah. Dick. She's like, I think that was a sign. She's like, you're overindulging in technology. Good timing, puppy. But yeah, there's that overindulgence, abundance, overt nasty sexuality, and just
the sexuality, like it's so.
He really takes it to an extreme when it comes to the human body and how easily they can be changed, how easily they can be like mutated, and just very Frankenstein's monster. Very Frankenstein's monster.
The sexual stuff in this is so out there, right? Because like, so they put this hole in your body and then it becomes overtly sexual, like from the jump, even before Jude Law licks her back. Because like the way that people touch it and the way that people insert stuff into it, like it feels like, and I feel like for Allegra, it's like, that's the kick. It's like, yeah, insert this thing into me because I like it. It feels good to go in.
Oh yeah, and she's always asking him to do it.
Yeah.
Plug me in. And he's just like, ew, no.
He's like, no, do it. I need a gamer. I need someone to do it with me.
Yeah, it's not subtle. But that's the thing, like I don't feel like most of his movies are subtle, I don't think he needs to be. David Cronenberg, I don't think he needs to be subtle. He's like, no, this is it, and it's gross.
It's gross. It's super gross. Cool. Yeah, I think that about covers it. Any last thoughts? Any parting words?
Of all the movies that deal with this kind of material or genre, it is the grossest. It will make you feel uncomfortable. It will.
Yeah, it makes you feel pretty uncomfortable. But that's the kind of his thing, right? I mean, it's been that way from the jump. This kind of like body horror stuff, nasty fleshiness.
Having to move it away from her so she doesn't
kick it. Interesting. All right, cool. Well, I think that about covers it for this week. We'll see what we'll talk about next week. I think we've kind of talked about a bunch of at least these type of films that have to do with alternate reality. We might try to figure out something else. Maybe we'll stay in the late 90s. Maybe we'll finally cross over into like the 2000s a bit more.
The 2000s.
Yeah, the 2000s. I was thinking, like, I know that you talked about it at some point. Maybe it was just on Twitter, but like talk about Sphere.
Oh yeah, because I don't think we talked about that together. I think that was just something I watched on my own on your recommendation because I liked Sphere. I liked it.
Yeah, I think Sphere would be good to talk about. We can do that. I like Sphere a lot. I feel like I saw Sphere at the right time. Because Sphere is it's a weird one. It's a weird, but like Sphere to me feels like it's kind of trying to be a hard sci-fi movie. I think in a lot of ways, and it just sort of has it's like dealing with a concept. And that used to be like a lot of what sci-fi was about. Like, hey, here's this idea. What would happen if this happened in a story? How can we tell a story about that? And that's kind of what Sphere is about. Very different from this, but that's also kind of a horror movie in a way.
Yeah, there's definitely some horror elements to it, especially the claustrophobic element to it.
Yeah,
like it's a very claustrophobic movie. And I remember really liking Sharon Stone's character. I felt really bad for Sharon Stone's character a lot throughout the movie.
What I like about that movie too is like it's like there's so many times where Armageddon, for instance, like they take NASA scientists and they stick them with a bunch of freaking drillers, right? Some Texas oil drillers. And it's like, do we need these Texas yokel dudes to like drill a
No,
hole.
they didn't. Like,
You don't.
even like on the commentary, Ben Affleck was just,
Yeah.
he even asked that. He posed that question to Michael Bay, who told him to shut the fuck
up.
And it would have been so much easier for them to just teach, like, NASA scientists who already know how to do the job. All you have to do is teach them how to drill. Like, that's literally, like, you have 18 days and you're gonna spend that time teaching regular Joes to be astronauts. And the thing is, they try and gloss it over with, oh, he has a degree in what is it, geology, and there's like, some of them have, like, some of the characters do have actual degrees. One of them was an Air Force pilot, so his body,
they have some training.
They have some training with certain things.
But you're not a freaking astronaut.
But no, Ben Affleck's character doesn't have a degree in anything.
I mean, he's just... look, here's the real, and maybe this wouldn't really matter because it's basically a suicide mission. So, like, look, here's the thing. The reason why you gotta have really smart people is, like, you gotta fly the freaking thing off of a rock in space, and you gotta be able to do calculations. Like, you're fucking, like, look, there's no amount of training you could get me in like 9 months or whatever, however long they had to train these people.
They had 3 weeks. They had 3 weeks when freaking Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin could have died crashing over a crater. Buzz Aldrin was doing freaking long division in his head.
He's doing long division in his head, and if he was off, they would have died.
And the majority of the characters that do, like, some of the Bruce Willis crew do die. Like, some of them die, but the majority of like the NASA astronauts, I think there's more of them that die than the actual dudes. Like, and what I think is funny is that they do prove, at least Steve Buscemi's character, they prove his intelligence multiple times throughout the film. Like, when he tells him, you land us on a goddamn iron plate, it's just like he's actually doing the mathematics and, like,
he's figuring out what they need to do to,
what
like,
the fuck is Owen Wilson doing there? What the
hell?
Does
he live or does he
No,
die?
he dies.
Okay, that's good.
The thing about that movie,
he's there because he's Owen Wilson and he's pretty, and at the time he was a big
exactly
kind of big actor.
And here's the thing.
He's Hans. He's so hot right now.
Exactly. The thing is, Michael Bay is so good at directing montages. He is so good at making you care about these characters by putting them in comedic situations where they bond in some way. Because the scene when they're all getting their tests done and they're in that really weird looking room, like, one of them is just like, this might be the most uncomfortable room I've ever been in my entire... It's funny. Like, it's a funny montage.
Super funny. Yeah, it is funny. It is funny. I think, I remember, so we did a review of the movie
Deep Impact.
Deep Impact, which is based, so they're the same movie.
They're basically the same movie.
And these things happen all the time because basically what happens is Hollywood is like, these scripts are just sitting around. They're sitting around for years. And then, so, the reason why these happen is because more than likely there was a lot of stuff in the 90s. So there was Twister. There was...
Disaster movies became big.
Yeah. There was Twister. There was really Independence Day. Independence Day at the time was like the second highest grossing movie of all time. Like, when it came out, like,
movie.
The only thing that was higher was Jurassic Park. And so they were like, okay, we got to make these movies. And so then they're like, okay, so what are we going to do? Well, let's do Asteroid Hitting the Earth movie. And then of course what happens is one studio fires it up. And then the other studio is like, holy shit, they greenlit the Asteroid movie. We have our own script. Let's fire ours up too. And so, they have both of these movies. And, the thing about Deep Impact is, like, it tried to do it realistically. And the thing that which is fine, but, like, the thing that it sort of failed at is, like, making that connection with the people who are actually going out to blow up the asteroid.
Exactly.
We don't really have a connection with them. But they're scientists, and which makes kind of sense because you would, these people, they're robots, basically. And they're trained to just do the job, and that's it.
Yeah, we see the movie where they actually do send the real astronauts into space. And we see some things that they don't show in Armageddon, which is, like, there's a really great harrowing scene when they're on the asteroid and the solar flares or the sun rays.
It rotates so that the sun hits the asteroid and it heats up the asteroid. Yeah, and because there's liquid in the crevices, it causes a geyser.
And you see the consequences of that, and like, get your helmet down, put your visor down, like you're literally going to explode. You're fit, like this guy's face like explodes or some shit. Like, and one of them goes instantly blind. He goes blind instantly.
Yeah.
And that's stuff that you don't really see in Armageddon, because again, in Armageddon, Michael Bay even openly admits it's not a scientifically accurate film.
Yeah, not at all.
We knew that going in. There should not be fire in space. An asteroid should not be making noise.
I love that shot. They're literally driving, and then there's fire coming out.
Yeah, like, so even he's
like there's a crashed plane that's on fire on this asteroid as they're driving.
I was listening to How Did This Get Made, and they were doing clone movies. They were just watching clone movies, and the last one they watched was The Island. And it made me actually want to rewatch it, because it's a very interesting idea. It's a great idea. It's a great idea.
That got Michael Bay.
But I guess he told a story of how he was on a plane with a Saudi Arabian prince who had this servant who was literally there if he needed a new heart. This servant was literally at his beck and call 24 hours in case something happened to this prince, in case he needed a new heart.
Wow.
And Michael Bay was just like, this is something I'm genuinely experiencing right now. What if that was a thing?
Yeah.
What if, because the whole thing about The Island is that the people buying these organs don't know that they're coming from real people.
Yes, they think that it's coming from a little vegetative sac. That's what the company sells them on.
And I get the impression, from what I remember, they were trying to do it that way. They were trying to just growing them, but it wasn't working for whatever reason. They needed like a living host.
Yeah, it didn't work because the organs were not viable, but they were viable in a living human.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, I was just thinking, I want to rewatch that movie soon, because I'm like, yeah, it's a Michael. I
like that movie personally. There's a lot. I actually I heard a story about that where so basically there's a scene where it's Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson, and there's a scene where they like have an intimate, they kiss and like it's very romantic, but like the way Michael Bay directed it was like he was just shouting at them. He's like, okay, now kiss, now stop. Now kiss. Now stop. Okay, cut. We're done. And after that, Hugh McGregor never talked to him again. He's like, I will never speak to him again, ever. Again.
No, I think there was someone from I forget who it was, but they had done, he did Bad Boys or something like that, and he made this hardened rapper, this like guy who has seen some shit, cry.
He's Megan Fox said he's like working with Hitler.
Oh yeah, like he put. I blame Michael Bay for whatever issues Megan Fox had.
The Megan Fox thing is really weird because like, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get into my full feelings on, but like the thing that he did was super fucked up. Like he finds her, in Bad Boys 2, she plays a stripper when she's like 16. Okay. So then he's like, oh, hey, I'm going to do this Transformers movie. I want you to audition for it. So the audition is going to be, you come to my house and you wash my Ferrari, and I'm going to record you. That was that was the audition, for real. That was the audition, and she got the part.
Sick. That is just so disgusting. That is so fucking... That's like how Liv Tyler played a stripper in her dad's music video. That's the level of uncomfortable that I feel. That you cast your own daughter to play a stripper in your music video.
What's so weird about the whole thing is like that's like that I helped her career. Like that's what's even weirder.
That's what makes it so horrible.
Right? That's what makes it actually horrible, is like that wasn't like, hey, that's fucked up. Like you can't do that. Then there were people who saw that and they're like, oh shit, I want to cast her in my movie.
Yeah.
And it's perverse because it leads more people to doing that type of stuff. It leads more people to like being like, oh well, I guess I should play the stripper, or I should do this nude scene. I guess I should do this thing that I feel kind of uncomfortable with because it's going to get me to the next level. So weird. But yeah, the stuff with Megan Fox, and like, yeah, he's just a really kind of power hungry guy. There's a lot of bad stories with Michael Bay. But like, he was successful for a long time, and people just don't care. They're like, hey, the movie makes money. I don't really care.
Exactly. As long as it makes money, we don't care about whatever trauma it might have caused. Because I'm sorry, those Transform movies are just so awful. They're just so bad to me. I've seen quite a few of them, because when I start a series, I have to finish.
Yeah.
I have to. There's like maybe 2 I haven't seen, because I was just like, this is so fucking dumb. Not Transformers itself. I know it has a huge fan base, like the actual cartoons and everything. Like, if I had grown up,
the Bayformers.
Yeah, if I had just been a little bit older when that was new, I know I would have enjoyed it. I just know I would have. But now it's like, I feel like sometimes some things that had really intense cultural relevance, like I tried watching The Goonies, I couldn't finish it. I'm like, it is passed me by.
Oh yeah, it's
passed me by.
That's an artifact. But what's funny is like you can see. So like, do you watch Stranger Things?
Yeah, I enjoy Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I thought the last 2 seasons were.
Stranger Things is just The Goonies, except it's a harder, it's a more mature content. Like, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same setup. Kids, some kind of crazy weird thing going on.
Yeah, but the thing with The Goonies is that, and I don't say this very often, I really, really don't, because I genuinely love action adventure. I grew up watching Indiana Jones. I love shit like that. I really, really do. The Goonies is genuinely a boys' movie, in my opinion. I know plenty of women who love it. I really, really do. But it is definitely geared towards young boys. It's definitely got that boy adventure mentality. I mean, they're all boys. It's a group of literal boys. There's very few female characters around their age.
Yeah, and then there's like the mutant guy who's also a dude.
Yeah, exactly. So I just, like I said, I don't like saying that, because I know there's a lot of women in my life who grew up watching it who really, really loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But for me personally, I'm just like, yeah, it seems like something like a group of brothers would watch and then go and do or something. It's just not, again, I feel like the cultural relevance for it passed me by. I was just a little too, and my parents just never rented it either.
Yeah.
So I think I was watching Stand By Me a little too young, but I prefer that.
Yeah, Stand By Me, yeah.
There's something a little different about Stand By Me. There's just something I can still watch it.
Sure.
It's more mature, and it's something that I knew kids like that. I knew kids who grew up on the wrong side of the tracks and who my mom didn't want me to hang out with. I knew a Chris Chambers. She was a girl, but I definitely knew a Chris Chambers growing up. I knew a Teddy Duchamp, and I was not allowed to hang out with them. So there's just something a little bit more, I can connect to Stand By Me a little bit more than, say, like The Goonies. And I don't know why, it just is.
Yeah, I can see that. I think Stand By Me is really well done.
It's a phenomenal movie.
I feel like a lot of that stuff is what's being recycled. It feels like a recycled version of a lot of those movies. I mean, Stephen King wrote Stand By Me, and I feel like Stand By Me, well, whatever it's based on, I forget what the short story is called.
The Body.
The Body. He wrote that so that he could write it, because he wanted to nail the kid interaction. I mean, that book is a whole nother shebang of craziness. But yeah, I feel like they've kind of recycled a lot of the stuff's come back into the fore now, because it's all kind of like taking that 80s, like the kids like E.T. and The Goonies and Stand By Me, and then just like putting it into today's context where, like you said, like that's one thing they do kind of well with like Stranger Things. It's like they do have all these female characters who, there's 11, and then they just kind of keep adding. There's that redheaded girl, I forget her name, and then 11 and the redheaded girl kind of become friends, and they kind of, they have their like, they had a whole like in the latest season, this whole like being a girl subplot.
Yeah,
that was very cute.
Well, that's the thing, because like 11 is immediately imprinted on by boys. Like they're who rescue her. She kind of looks like a boy. She doesn't get a femininity until she has another female friend, which kind of if you grow up with nothing but brothers, you're gonna act a little bit like a boy.
And I really feel like at first they I forget the Finn Wolfhard character, what his name is. Like she becomes his like ideal girl next door. Like that's the whole thing. Like he's like, oh, wear this, do that, come to this dance with me. And she's just she really didn't have an identity at that time.
No, and I think that was kind of, she has to discover her identity. She needs to hang out with the guys, and then she needs to hang out with the girls.
And then they had that terrible subplot in season 2 where she remember she like goes off and she meets the other kids like her.
Yeah, I didn't care about that. I thought that was so
I hated that subplot. I hated it
so much. I'm like, really? Like, the amount of children who went missing in the 80s was huge, and she would have gone missing. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mind her finding her mom. I didn't mind that part of it because 11 doesn't have a mom. You know what I mean? She kind of has this community of friends whose moms all kind of just, oh, it's just Elle, you know, whatever. But she doesn't have like a mom. She doesn't have that maternal connection. So I was fine with her finding her mother, but I didn't like the other kids she discovered. I was like,
I
okay,
did not like
so
the other
like
kids at all.
We're all just gonna end up being drug addicts and thieves. Like, thanks for that message. Like, that's cool, I guess. But
it was kind of cool when they like had her, you know, she like did the whole 80s thing. She was wearing all black and she had the black eyeliner. That was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, the look was fantastic, and I was totally down with her going a little goth. But like,
but that was it. Then she like goes back, and then we're back to the main plot line where she has to close this portal. It's like, the fuck was the whole point of that?
Exactly. And something that my sister Reed pointed out to me once, she's like, have you ever noticed that all of like these crazy monsters pop out of nowhere and no one sees them? Like, there's that big ass monster in season 2 that was like chasing them or something, and at a fair, and nobody noticed it. Nobody saw anything. Like, it's just the kids who noticed it. I'm like,
yeah,
maybe because it's like kid logic.
Maybe because
it's like that. You know what I mean? Maybe it's because like maybe it's kind of like that Narnia thing where you get too old to see certain things and you can't go back. But it's a real monster. Like, we know it's there. Like, I don't know, but
it seems like the monsters mostly kill. Did the monsters kill adults?
Yeah, they killed Sean Astin's character, which I was super bummed about.
Season 2. Yeah, he died. He
died bad.
In season 1, did anyone else, any adults die?
I feel like it was mostly teenagers and kids. Not even really kids. The kids just get chased a whole bunch. But like, there was Barb.
Yeah, Barb gets killed.
And then
no one gave a shit.
I think it was mostly like nameless security guards and scientists and stuff like that. But yeah. By season 2, I think, Elle finally starts identifying or figures out what her identity. But even then, she's being imprinted by someone else who's telling her to break up with her boyfriend, and she has no mind of her own until like the very end. And then we're just supposed to like that Stevie character.
And the other thing too, the cop. What's the cop's name? I forget his name. But anyway, he's another. She's just like kind of torn between different male influence because he's another male influence that's like dictating how her life is gonna be.
Yeah, and I hated what they did with his character. Oh my god, what's his name?
I forget.
1 second, sorry. And it's gonna bug me if I can't.
Yeah, I know. 11's really kind of interesting.
Hopper.
Yeah, Hopper. Yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden Hopper was just a dick in season 2, and he was just like, I'm an overprotective dad stereotype. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my god, just gag me with a stick. It was just, and everyone kept making fat jokes, and I'm just like, like they just kept making fat jokes. He was wearing the Hawaiian shirts, and I'm just like,
yeah,
you were actually kind of a cool dude with an edge, and now you're
he was super cool.
Overprotective dick.
They did all kinds of weird stuff to him, to his character. I don't know. They kind of, I think they had an idea of what, because of season 3 was where he disappeared. I think that they knew they wanted to do that, and so they kind of needed to create some conflict so you know, like you set him up, okay, he's overprotective, and then in the end you're like, oh well, I'm overprotective because I love you, right? like they do that thing, and then they're like, then in the season 3 when he's had the I love you arc, then he's like the good dad, and then he disappears, and then you feel bad. Right. Yeah,
they are. It looks like they are going to be doing like the haunted house kind of thing. With season, it's 4, right? I think I'm accidentally combining season 2 and 3 together. I think that's what I'm doing.
I think a little bit, yeah. So yeah, season 3 I think was the overprotectiveness.
Oh, okay, that's where it came in. Okay.
I forget exactly. Season 2 kind of blends a bit for me because
that's what's happening. I think with me, like they're kind of.
they're just, I like season 3. There's some things that are kind of distinct, because like I know season 2 was the Flayer. I think the Mind Flayer goes after the kid, and he's like, I have to get into his body.
That's what it was. And by the end of season 3, he's adopting Elle. They like forged documents or something.
They've actually adopted Elle.
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
And so I think in season 2 she's still staying with what's his name, Finn Wolfhard, whatever his name, the kid.
I can't. Yeah, it's all blending together. I'm gonna have to rewatch it before season 4 comes out, because now it's all just kind of warping a little bit.
She's very different. It's kind of interesting because she's very different in season 1, and then they rapidly she gets pulled in different directions. They start making her into a real girl, and they start, wear this, and like I said, his character is like it's so weird because like she's just being painted on as everyone's ideal girl. Basically. Exactly.
Instead of just like
letting her find herself.
Like, because teenage girls need to find themselves sometimes. It's almost like we're confused or something because we don't know what the society wants us to be.
Yeah.
Sorry,
and
you high horse, but
and you have a teenage boy who's like, I want you to be my perfect little girl next door, who goes to the prom with me.
Yeah, I want you to just. No, it was the snowball dance.
Yeah,
it was the snowball. I want you to just like do what I want you to. It's just like, come on, dude. Like,
and then Hopper like wants her to be something else.
Yeah, he wants her to stay a virgin. That was season 3. Hopper afraid his 13-year-old adoptive daughter was gonna have sex. Like that was his like
always leave the door open when you guys are together.
Like, leave the door open. It's like, oh my
and God. She uses her psychic powers.
And honestly, I just thought it was so unnecessary to show them making out and stuff. Like, I get teenage. Maybe it's because I didn't, because I was never around boys who weren't related to me. But I was just like, really, like. Millie Bobby Brown was already sexualized at 11 years old. We need to continue with that. Like, it's just, it was so unnecessary to me. I was just like, this is just gross. I don't need to see this. Like, am I the only person who's protective of teenage girls and not trying to exploit them? Like, ugh.
Yeah, it's a little, and again, that's another thing where, right? Because like that's actually kind of a part of the person that the Finn Wolfhard character wants. He wants her to be that, his sexual, like
it's just like
playmate, basically.
I feel like in season 1 it was very sweet. He has a crush on her. She's the different girl. She's mute.
He's taking care of her.
She's codependent. But there was something still sweet about it. There was still something very innocent about it. And
then when they go to the dance, it's like it's sweet. It's not sexual.
It's not perverse. You know what I mean? By season 3, I'm just like, this is just gross. You have a director telling 2 13-year-olds to make out with each other. Like, that's just gross to me. Like, I'm not comfortable with that. Like, at all. I feel like there should be parents on set. Like no, thank you. No, thank you. And everything I've been seeing with Millie Bobby Brown in the media is just so gross to me. It's just so.
If you want to get really gross, look up Millie Bobby Brown and Drake.
I know about that. I think that is disturbing as fuck. I think it's really creepy, and I didn't listen to.
He's got a history.
Already.
He's got a history.
I didn't listen to his music, and I was just like, yeah, this is not normal. There's nothing about this. And you know what's interesting? Again, I'm sorry. He
targets young women, and he's like, okay, you're 16. We're gonna hang out. Yeah,
we're gonna hang out. We're gonna get some
Starbucks.
Hang out. And
then when you're 18, then we're gonna start dating. Magically, the day you turn 18, I'm gonna throw you a birthday party, and then I'm going to throw you a birthday party with a bunch of celebrities to make it like cool, and then we're gonna start officially dating.
It's like almost like there's a word for it that rhymes with brooming or something. Yeah, it's almost like
I think it starts with a G.
Yeah, I think it starts with it rhymes with brooming, but like there's this
grooming.
When you listen to interviews about groping, yeah, there's definitely that. When you read things about celebrities who were child stars and they had good parents, the mentality is totally different. The mentality is, I'm a working artist, and I had I think Elijah Wood's mom never left set when he was acting as a child. I don't think she ever left him alone, and he didn't go off the deep end. He didn't.
Yeah, no, he's great.
He seemed to have a pretty normal transition from child star to adult.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you look at people like Britney Spears, Macaulay Culkin, Amanda Bynes, even Millie Bobby Brown.
Who did you name him, like the person who's on Nickelodeon?
Amanda Bynes, yeah.
Amanda Bynes,
there's been tons of Nickelodeon stars that have gone off the deep end, and it's just like, yeah, it's because their parents weren't present. Their parents let them hang out with adult celebrities, and look, here are the consequences. Here's some Percocets. You want to do a line of Coke? It's like,
yeah,
it's so pervasive. And
I mean, even like he talked to, what was it, Corey Haim or Corey? I think it was Corey Feldman. The Predators. They're predators.
He's been literally shouting it for decades.
Yeah.
Decades.
And then he did this thing recently where, like, oh, it's so weird because, like, basically he can't say who it was because of some lawsuit.
I don't think he can legally say who it was, but
he can't legally say who it was. But he went on this show, and then the other person, the host said who it was, and then he just he didn't say yes or no. He said he basically affirmed it without saying so.
Yeah.
And basically, this guy in the 80s would throw parties for kids, and people would fucking let their kids go. And of course, he was rich and connected, celebrity producer. But like, you let your fucking kid go to a party with the fucking 40-year-old dude? What do you think he's there for?
Yeah, I think the parents are definitely, like, I don't want to be Maud Flanders and be like, think of the children, but it's like,
well, but here's the thing, they're exploiting the children because, like, when and it's built into the system. If you have a child and that child works, you have their money. The child doesn't get the money because they cannot legally work. You have their money.
Yeah, and then they have no childhood. They have no social skills. They don't know how to be around other kids their own age because they're surrounded by adults 24 hours a day being told you're perfect. And when you stop being perfect, when you stop being cute, that's it. And I don't remember Emma Watson being treated the same way Millie Bobby Brown was being treated. And I think that's because both of Emma Watson's parents are lawyers. Same with Katie Holmes. I don't remember Katie Holmes being treated like this because her dad is, I think, a psychologist, and I think her mom's a lawyer, something like that. Child stars who have knowledgeable, intelligent parents, and unfortunately, I don't want to say this, but I feel like sometimes it does come down to privilege. I think there is a level of they already know how bad it is, but this is my kid's dream, but I'm going to make sure that they're not taken advantage of. Like, well,
there has to be some kind of someone to keep people out of the pitfalls, you know? I mean, that's why, there's so many people that make it in Hollywood, like they're the son or the daughter, or they're married to someone who's already made it. Because the closer you are to being around someone who can actually guide you through this insane system, the less likely you are to fall down the drugs or the, I don't know, going crazy and not being a normal person kind of thing. There's so many different pitfalls you can fall into.
Yeah, and there's exceptions to every rule. Like Carrie Fisher struggled with substance abuse, and her mom was freaking, her dad was Eddie Fisher, and her mom was, oh God, who was her mom?
I forget, but yeah, her mom was an actor, right?
Yeah, Debbie Reynolds.
Debbie Reynolds, yeah.
I mean, shit, she was one connection away from freaking Elizabeth Taylor, for Christ's sakes, and it's just, you know, so it can work. Like I said, there's exceptions to every rule, but like Jason Bateman, I believe, was the son of actors. Who else? Oh my God, there's so many. Bryce Dallas Howard is Ron Howard's daughter. So yeah,
and she's very successful. She's very successful,
he was a
just
child
like her dad.
star. Yeah, he was a child star. He grew up in the system. He grew up in the industry. So I think it makes sense that she's not only had a successful career, but a relatively controversy-free one at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
How cool would it be to have Ron Howard as your dad? Like, shit. Like, that's so much knowledge of not just filmmaking, but storytelling. And just, that'd be crazy.
Or just like the Eastwoods. There's like an army of Eastwoods.
There's literally a death. Married like 25 times.
Or the Skarsgårds. That's another. Oh my God, the Skarsgårds.
I had no idea there were so many Skarsgårds, dude. And then I was like, wow.
So this guy, Stellan Skarsgård, he's got like 9 kids.
He's a phenomenal actor. I love Stellan Skarsgård. I haven't heard anything crazy about him. I really hope I don't.
No, he's just a Swede. You know, your typical Swede. I mean, there's nothing crazy. It's just like, it's kind of funny that he's had so many kids. I mean, and we're talking into the 60s. He was having kids. Like, he has a 19-year-old, I believe, who's an actor. But yeah, I mean, there's some talent coming from that tree, for sure.
It's weird how we have like almost celebrity royalty. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have real royalty. We have Beyonce and Jay-Z, and
they have a daughter, and they're already prepping their daughter to be. Their daughter was in. They did some basically elongated music video that was on Disney, and their daughter was in that. So they're prepping her. But yeah, I mean, this is how it works. Like, that just makes it way easy. I mean, it's the typical Hollywood nepotism thing. I forget, there was some story that came across recently that was like a typical nepotism. But it's just the nature of the industry. Like, the closer you are to people that are successful, the easier it is for you to be successful. I mean, David Cronenberg, speaking of him, he has a son who's a director.
Oh, David Bowie's son. He directed Moon.
Yeah, Duncan Jones.
Movie. Yeah. Which I like. He doesn't have David Bowie's like, stage name or whatever. Because I'm pretty sure, is David Bowie was that a stage name? I can't really remember.
Yeah, he's I like his films. Unfortunately, it feels like he kind of a bit fell off the wagon after he did Warcraft. It feels like he did Warcraft and they kind of, I don't know, put him in jail, director's jail.
That's so sad.
It is kind of sad. It is kind of sad, but yeah, he's super talented.
But yeah, or like was it Ice Cube who is in Straight Outta
O'Shea Jackson Jr. also is his son.
Like he made his son audition. He's like, if you want to play me, you're gonna have to audition because I don't want to be that dad who just lets his kid play me in a movie because Ellie, this is okay, there you go. She came up for air. He didn't want it to appear to be nepotism. Maybe part of it was, but at least he made him.
Well, he was good.
He was great. Oh my God, he was great. Fantastic. I love Straight Outta Compton. I mean, it's a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a talented actor, and he's his son. It's a good fit.
It's a really good fit.
I mean, okay. So this was the thing that I remembered that was the kind of nepotism-ish. There's a lot of sons of actors that are getting. Speaking of him, O'Shea Jackson Jr. So James Gandolfini's son is in The Many Saints of Newark.
Playing his own dad's character.
Yes, he is. A younger version of his dad. Which is, stuff like that. And actually, this is... I kind of forgive it on a certain level.
I'm okay with it. I'll be open. I'm okay with it.
His dad died way too young.
Oh my God.
James Gandolfini died way too young. I actually
cried. I don't generally cry when celebrities pass away because I'm like, okay, it's a natural thing. People are upset because they're like a huge star. They contributed a lot to film or television. I was genuinely upset when James Gandolfini died.
And this is one I just learned of that kind of blew me away. So Philip Seymour Hoffman's son is starring in the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Really?
Yes. Philip Seymour Hoffman's son.
I didn't even know he had kids.
That blew my mind. I was like, yeah, he has a son, and the son started basically. This is his first. Like, this is crazy, right? So first off, Philip Seymour Hoffman is like one of the great actors of all time.
Yeah, that was so tragic.
It's super tragic. And he did a lot of really great work with Paul Thomas Anderson, and to see his son work with the same director is like kind of poetic.
Yeah.
On a lot of levels, but and it's his first role, but that's the dream to have that be your first role. Yeah. So I mean, is that nepotism on a certain level? Yes. On a certain level,
no, but on another hand, it's like James Gandolfini isn't around to push his own son. You know what I mean? And he looks fairly young. At least to me, he looks like a young person. He looks younger than I am. He was, you know what I mean? Like, he's not around to push the fact that, hey, you should hire my son to play a young Tony Soprano because it would just make so much sense and blah, blah. Plus, James Gandolfini doesn't seem like he was that type of actor. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, to be honest, like they probably, if he wasn't dead, they probably would have done something different.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it really feels like you do have to do the prequel because you don't have him around anymore to do more content.
Yeah, and maybe it's just a way to honor him. Maybe
it feels
it's that
like
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like, you know, hey, your dad contributed a lot to, like, he was the main character. He did a phenomenal job, well respected, well liked. I was listening to a podcast recently. Julia Louise-Dreyfus was giving an interview, and she was talking about what it was like working with James Gandolfini. She was just like the nicest guy, the not a Hollywood person at all.
Yeah.
Like, and she was like, I loved pretending to be in love with him. She's like, I loved it.
Yeah, he's a really cool. Again, super sad that he went. You know, the thing that I kind of remember was like when I don't know. You know, someone's a real actor when there's some things that they do. Like, oh wow, they did that. They really like acting. Like he was in Where the Wild Things Are. That I don't know if you remember that movie.
I didn't see it because it was based on a book, right?
Yeah, it's a very famous children's book.
Yeah, I never read the story, so again, cultural relevance totally passed me by. But I always kind of meant to see it because I like James Gandolfini.
Yeah, it's an interesting film. It's an interesting. I'll just put it that way. Maybe we'll review it because it's kind of sci-fi, fantasy-ish. It's just one of those. It's one of those like hard to adapt things. But anyway. Like he did that, and he also, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the TV show The Night Of.
I have not.
I would check that out if you have HBO. Do you have HBO Max?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would check that out on HBO Max. It's a really, really good, and he was involved in getting it made, and he was a producer on it. It's about this Muslim guy who, so he's this like son of immigrants who are taxi drivers, and basically he's just like out trying to, you know, go on a date and go to a party, and he picks up this girl. The girl, she's kind of suicidal, and they hang out for a night and they make out and they have sex, and then she winds up dead the next morning, and he freaks out and he runs away and he tries to get out of it, and then the cops catch him.
Oh
and
the
whole
God.
It's fucking crazy. The whole show is really about the system, the
bias.
The bias. It's not even just like the bias. It's just like the system, like what the criminal justice system does to a person. Because we see him as this like young, naive, very nice, very smart guy going somewhere. He's going to get educated. Yeah, he's just living his life, and then he gets fucked up by the system. And yeah, it's a really great show. But yeah, James Gandolfini, and like they never thought it was going to get made just because, like, basically, you know, the lead is a Muslim guy, and it's very sympathetic to and empathetic to the plight of what happens to him. It's a great show. It's a really, really great. It's a miniseries. Yeah. What's his name? Riz Ahmed plays the lead in it. He's really good. There's a couple other really good actors. I forget the guy's name. Anyway, it's great. I would definitely recommend it. Definitely. But yeah, James Gandolfini was one of the reasons why that thing got made, because he like took it to HBO. It was like, hey, you guys should really make this.
That's awesome. Good for him. Like, that's so cool. Because, like, I feel like we have no problem whatsoever in Hollywood to make movies about a character that might be Catholic or a priest as the main character or some shit. But when it comes to anything that is even remotely Middle Eastern, it's like, no, we can't touch that. It's like, it just,
or even like think of like a Buddhist or something.
Dude, I didn't even know that there were other religions until my parents stopped going to church. I had no freaking idea. And it's like, it's not wrong to expose audiences to things that are not maybe not as normal to practice in Western culture, but it just it makes me really happy that they are portraying things like that more, because it's like, oh, it's almost like people do believe in different things. Oh my God. It's like, it's so shocking still though. And
and like stuff like, unfortunately, stuff like that, like the night of, is few and far between. You know, there's not a lot of stuff like that that's made still. I mean, there's more, but not enough. And you know, it's really, really good. Really, really good stuff. I mean, there's really good stories that you can tell about those type of people's experiences.
Exactly. There's a lot of first generation stuff. Like Master of None was a good example of that. Him and his best friend are both like first generation, Americans. But not so much like the parents, you know what I mean? Who, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And I think we're seeing more of it trickle in. But again, like you said, it's few and far between. And sometimes they're just supporting characters, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so yeah, I think the next thing we'll talk about is Sphere. I think that'll be a good thing to talk about. That would be a fun review to do. Because I mean, I like that movie. I think you liked it too. So I think
I liked it. I was kind of surprised by it. I was like, oh wow, this is actually a pretty decent movie. Like, I really liked it.
Yeah, I think it's aged pretty well. No, like what I was saying is, what I liked about it is like the movies. It's about real scientists. They're all scientists,
exactly,
and they act like scientists. You know, they try to be logical. They try to be like deductive. Now, some of them, they have some neuroticism, and they have some, there's some other things, and there's some things they conceal about themselves, but they are scientific, and they come with a scientific kind of glean on the world in terms of how they're going to deal with and assess the situation that they're put into, which is what I really liked. Instead of like, having it be, the Armageddon. Yeah, like we're gonna send these freaking hot-looking cowboy dudes into space. It's like,
exactly. Like, no, we actually need scientists to do the job for us.
Yeah, we'll make the scientists hot, but there will still be scientists.
Exactly.
Cool. All right, so that'll be the next time we do a stream. Until then, thanks a lot, everybody. And take care. May the force be with you.
Live long and prosper.